Spiritually, Mystery Babylon is a desert by the sea, Isaiah 21:1, and a land of idols, Jeremiah 50:38, compare Nahum 3:4. And as we know, greed and covetousness are prominent forms of idolatry, Colossians 3:5. Instead of putting the one true God first in her thinking, Babylon worships money, pleasure, fame, power, possessions, all the objects of greed. The blossoming of this foundation of idolatrous thinking into the idolatrous religion of Antichrist in the tribulation's second half will be an entirely natural progression. The inhabitants of this land will be guilty men whose own strength is their God, Habakkuk 1:11, who sacrifice to the net, whereby they exploit others so as to live in the lap of luxury, Habakkuk 1:16 and 17. One significant aspect of Babylon's blasphemous material idolatry is the prevalence within her of sorcery, witchcraft and the like, Isaiah 47:9 through 15 and Revelation 18:23. This should be taken to mean not only what we consider a cult in the usual sense, but also Babylon's reliance upon the technological magic that so impresses us today. Technology, it is true, is entirely material and neither good nor bad in the abstract, but Babylon will rely upon it instead of upon God, upon the power of mankind's secret wisdom manipulating the material realm instead of upon God's complete control over everything material from the spiritual realm. Just as the wise men and magicians of Babylon were always the king's counselors, compare the court magicians of Pharaoh, Exodus 7:11 through 13, so magic and technology will form a similar witch's brew in the future Mystery Babylon, aided by a good measure of satanic power. In addition to being the world's commercial and military juggernaut, Babylon will also surpass the nations in her technological prowess, and will glory in it. Irresistible cultural influence. Not only will Mystery Babylon be irremediably evil in her own right, but she will also contribute to the spread of evil worldwide as no nation or empire has ever done before. The nations are said to stream to her, so influential is she, Jeremiah 51:44. This is a key part of the meaning of Revelation 17:1, where we are told that she sits on many waters, which waters are later interpreted for us at Revelation 17:15 to mean peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. In other words, Mystery Babylon's cultural influence will affect every stratum of society around the world to an unprecedented degree. This is the golden cup from which she makes the whole world drink, with the result that the nations go mad. Jeremiah 51:7, the same cup that is filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. Revelation 17:4. But the key theme in regard to Mystery Babylon's role as purveyor of every form of evil worldwide is that of prostitution, for she is the great prostitute, Revelation 17:1, and the mother of prostitutes, Revelation 17:5, with whom the kings of the earth have committed adultery, Revelation 17:2, so that all the unbelieving inhabitants of the earth become drunk with the wine of her adulteries, Revelation 17:2. This is a very straightforward analogy, not to mention a graphic one, and it does much to characterize Mystery Babylon's behavior for us. Like the adulteress of Proverbs, the path to her house leads to destruction, Proverbs chapter 5 and 7. Therefore, it is not at all surprising that everything about her gives the appearance of beauty and attractiveness, otherwise she would be much less successful in reeling in her marks. But her beauty is only apparent, heightened on the one hand by her excessive and suggestive presentation, and facilitated on the other by the maddening wine she gives her victims to drink. In the analogy, both on the leadership level, the kings of the earth, Revelation 17:2, and on the cultural level, the inhabitants of the earth, Revelation 17:2, Mystery Babylon will be purveying a very attractive message in the form of Antichrist's new movement. This message will seem intoxicating, but will, in reality, be extremely deadly, the maddening wine of her adulteries. It will be exciting, but not truly wholesome in any way, the sex of prostitution without any legitimate relationship. It will be attractive in the extreme on the outside, but on the inside will be filled with the bones of the dead. It will be therefore a sort of bewitching sorcery, both metaphorically and literally. Nahum 3:4. In short, Mystery Babylon will be the illicit peddler of Antichrist's influence, giving him the essential help he needs to expand his control around the world. Babylon's reward in the short term will be the untold riches discussed previously, the luxurious trappings of the prostitute described in Revelation chapter 17. But in the end, she and all she has will be destroyed at Antichrist's own hand, when God puts it into the hearts of the beast and his 10 kings to do so. Revelation 17:17. Probable identification of the future. Mystery Babylon. The first thing to note here is that Mystery Babylon does not yet exist per se. That is to say, until the tribulation begins and the restraining ministry of the Holy Spirit in regard to lawlessness ceases to impede the plans of Antichrist, even that nation which is destined to become Babylon is not yet Babylon in fact. This is no small point. For the end of divine restraint and horrendous consequences for the world which follow, many of which we have already examined in this series, will cause many changes, both to nations and to individuals. During the Great Apostasy, there will be a shocking number of believers who will fall away. Before they actually do apostatize, they deserve every consideration from us. For no matter how sure we are of the spiritual danger gathering around any specific individual now, much can happen before that time of trouble to come. Just so in Mystery Babylon's case, no matter how clear it may be to us which present-day country will, in all likelihood, play that role in the future, we must be careful to distinguish present trends from future realities, and must remember that nothing is impossible for God. It is with this caveat in mind that the following identification of the probable future Mystery Babylon is offered here. Revived Rome is centered in Europe, the biblical north, and does battle with the Southern Alliance headed by Egypt during the tribulation's first half, while the kings of the East are not directly involved in the military activity of the tribulation until Armageddon, Revelation 16:12. Thus, 3 of the 4 biblical quadrants of the earth are accounted for in the prophetic history of that time, and are thus excluded prima facie as locations for Babylon. Only the western quadrant remains, that is, the islands or coastlands. Once one has restricted the search to the Western Hemisphere, assuming our timetable for the likely onset of the tribulation to be correct, it takes no great leap of interpretation to identify what is today the United States as the nation which will play the role of mystery, Babylon, once the 7th seal is opened. It should be stressed at the outset of this discussion that there are many features of Mystery Babylon which are not yet, and indeed cannot yet be true of the United States, or of any other nation past or present for that matter. Mystery Babylon is yet future, so that even its present ancestor, the United States if the analysis here be correct, cannot now be held responsible for her future actions, even in those cases where some of the trends discussed may already be apparent. To use a loose historical analogy, Weimar Germany of the 1920s and early 1930s was in most respects a very different animal from the Germany of the Nazis, which supplanted it, despite some disturbing trends already visible before the fall of that former republic. The change of regime and the imposition of an intrinsically evil totalitarian system made all the terrible difference.